All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about the Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight. And word is that they are going to be winding up negotiations one way or the other in the take it or leave it ish or get off the pot type of manner. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to be in the welterweight division. Errol Spence, Terence Crawford in the biggest fight that there is in boxing right now for the undisputed championship of the world for the welterweight division, the IBF, WBC, WBA, WBO, everything on the line. And the negotiation that has taken forever and a day, and the sources, not my sources, but people out there are saying that it is a time to make this fight or that fight is going to get scuttlebutted. Now, before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for everything you do for the channel, watching the videos, watching the live streams. Thank you so much for what you guys do and the contributions you guys make to the channel in the comment section and by hitting that like button. If you're new to the channel, please let me extend my invitation to subscribe and join the boxing community that we have here. It is always a really good conversation, even if you disagree with me. We're always talking about the hottest topics in boxing and the stuff that's going on. So hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you can know when we're talking about them, when we release the videos, and when we do our live streams too, which we pretty much do every day. All right, so let's get into it. Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford have been in a protracted negotiation for a while now, pretty much holding the boxing world hostage as far as the interest in the biggest fight that there is in boxing. To date, it seems as if the holdup in the fight has been the conversation or the demands of Terence Crawford and what Terence Crawford wants to make the fight. Very early on, Errol Spence Jr. himself and Derek James, his trainer, both said that they had accepted the contract for, or the terms for the contract that were suggested to them or offered to them, I suspect by the PBC, to make the fight. They said this a while ago. Errol Spence Jr. said it after the Gervonta Tank Davis fight with Rolly Romero. Derek James, I do believe, said it after the fight. With Jermell Charlo versus Brian Castano, that they had already accepted the terms, and they were going to wait to see what Terence Crawford had to say about it. Well, we've been several months into this now, and the two people that have made real solid statements about where the negotiations are recently have both pretty much leaned towards it being the money issue with Terence Crawford. One was the head of Showtime Sports, who is the network that would be airing the fight, most likely. And what he said was that, yeah, this fight looks like it is easier to make than it was in the past, obviously, because you don't have Bob Arum involved with the negotiations anymore. So it's not a two-network deal. It's just one network that would be paying for the fight, or I suppose putting the guaranteed money in for the fight, and that would be Showtime. And what Steven Espinoza said at that time was, look, if it can be Mayweather money, is it a big fight? Yes, it's a big fight. Is it a Floyd Mayweather Jr. Type of situation? Floyd Mayweather Jr., Manny Pacquiao type of fight? No, it's not. So they're not going to be paying that type of money. So their thing was to try to get both parties to where the money that they would take for that fight would be a more realistic or an acceptable amount of money for Showtime. And so word came out about how much the initial offer was, or request for Terence Crawford was, and it was like $20 million and 50% of the pay-per-view. And then that, I suppose the percentage got changed to 55-45 for Errol, and that they must be still working on what the guarantee for that fight was going to be. Now, if you recall, Tim Smith, who was the director of communications for the PBC, had said a while ago that well before Errol Spence Jr. fought Yordenis Ugas, and I do believe before Terence Crawford fought Sean Porter. He said, look, we don't know if we even want to make an offer to Terence because the offer is going to be insulting to him. He's going to want to make a lot more money than what we're going to be able to pay him for the fight because Top Rank and ESPN had not really done a good job of building him as a fighter. So all that stuff led up into Terence Crawford being in a situation where, yes, on as far as the feel of the fight and the interest of the fight and with very hardcore boxing fans, that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of interest for that fight, but Showtime and the PBC might be looking at it, or we're looking at it like, well, if you talk about like outside of the boxing world, is this a fight that is really being demanded or really, translating into a lot of casual fans who don't usually watch boxing to come in and watch that particular fight? Is it that type of fight, right? And they're saying, no, it's not that type of fight. But all of the negotiations have gone through. People are trying to make the fight. But the word is now, though, is, look, we're getting to the end of the time necessary to make this fight. And Terence Crawford is going to have to accept. And for people that don't believe necessarily that it is Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, whatever the case is, are going to have to agree to this fight sooner than later because of the things that are necessary in order to actually have the fight this year, because they have a schedule. Showtime has a schedule. The arenas and the people and the place that they would have the fight have schedules, and you're going to have to get this fight done in enough time to be able to really promote the fight. And if this fight is going to be an expensive fight to make, which I suppose Terence Crawford is trying to make it that way because he's looking at guarantees, right? Not looking at back end money. Errol, in the way that Errol Spence Jr. has done fights, Gervonta Davis has been doing fights, PBC fighters have been doing fights, is they're not taking big guarantees up front. They're taking a lot of money. They're taking money on the back end out of the pay-per-views, out of that. But if Terence is going to be in a situation where he wants guaranteed money up front, right? Which is not, it's not an unreasonable thing, man. In most situations you would say, yeah, man, give me the guarantee. The back end is a scam. You don't know how much money is going to be out there on the back end. That's who knows. But when you get a guarantee, you know how much money you're making up front. But if they're not willing to do it, and that's the business model that they're running with, and they can say, look, yeah, but you're increasing our risk. And the more expensive it gets, the earlier that fight needs to be signed off on in order for those guys to maximize their potential to promote the fight, right? To go into, in October, I do believe by October, the NFL should be going by October, right? Should be in October. Not a big football fan, but to advertise and do all that, they're going to need to get all that type of stuff done. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. It's do or die time, ish or get off the pot. So hopefully we'll be hearing in the next couple of weeks, man, because one way or the other. So that's what I've been told. And that's what just logic would also tell you. So you let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.